I cannot begin to express to you how happy I am that it's finally autumn. I've been over summer for a while now, and autumn is my favorite season of the year. The long walks in the crisp breeze, evenings playing Catan and drinking apple cinnamon tea, and a general slowing down of things. This season is the epitome of coziness for me. For me, it's this transition into a kind of softer season of life. One where my calendar isn't quite so full and I'm able to make more space to appreciate the smaller things. A season of more quiet and rest and less hurry and hustle. Life is full of ebbs and flows, and there are times when we do have to push harder. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We live in a state of hurry sometimes because we have to, but we can't go at that speed all the time, and it's really important to appreciate and rejuvenate in the seasons of rest when they come. So this also tends to be a time of reflection for me, looking back over the year so far and making choices on how I want to finish the year out. So I've made a little list of questions to help me reflect on my own life and finish out the year well, and if you want to follow along with me and answer them too, I've made a cute little printable journal page you can download for free. I don't know about you, but I'm much more likely to actually answer journal questions when it's on a fun page than when it's on just like regular notebook paper. Anywho, some of these are more creativity-centered questions, and some of them are just general life things. So feel free to pick and choose which ones you want to reflect on. In honor of Inktober, I'll be doing some dip pen line art while we chat. Anywho, let's get to the questions. Number 1, what has been a consistent joy in my life this year? How can I incorporate more of that into my life? Okay, so my answer here is going to sound very general and basic, but please hear me out. There's actually quite a bit of depth here. So the last couple of years have been very grief-filled for me. The last couple of months in particular, it's literally been one loss after another, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been a lot. But in dealing with so many losses, I've also learned how to better appreciate the people in my life and be more intentional about building those relationships. So I feel like this year I've made more of an effort in my relationships, and that's been a very big joy in my life. FaceTiming my best friend more often, enjoying more walk chats with my dad, enjoying grocery shopping trips and early morning breakfast with my mom, taking more breaks throughout the day for snuggles with Annie Jane and playing fetch, also becoming an aunt. That's been amazing. I've been able to take time off of work off and on to visit her and get to know this wonderful little human. The people I love have been such a big joy in my life this year, and I want to continue to be more intentional about spending time with them and showing my love and appreciation for them. And sometimes that looks like a little bit of sacrifice. Or maybe not necessarily sacrifice, but reprioritization. Maybe saying no to a task on my to-do list so I can say yes to help a friend with their new project. Saying no to doom scrolling on the couch so I can say yes to Annie Jane when she wants her belly rubbed. And let me tell ya, that's often. Question number 2, what's been my biggest source of stress this year? Are there any steps I can take to lessen that stress? I would probably say my business. Some of this has lessened since healing my relationship with my creativity, which we'll get to in a few minutes, but there are definitely elements I could work on with it. My goal has been to turn my art business into a livable income, and it's just not there yet. It is a full-time job for me, but it most definitely does not pay a full-time salary. So I think there are a few parts to why this is such a stressor for me. Number 1, I'm trying to do too many things at once. There's a saying that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, and that's true. It's wise to have multiple income streams for your business. However, too many baskets turns you into a basket case. Your attention and efforts get spread way too thin, and none of those streams are very effective. I've been trying to use too many platforms for marketing and sharing my work, and it's just not a good use of my time. A step I could take here is to cut out the unnecessary bits and pieces, to really look at what elements are working and which ones aren't. For example, I keep coming back to Instagram even though I know it doesn't work well for me and is very negative on my mindset. I keep thinking,
well, maybe this time it'll work out and I'll actually reach the right people and be able to market my artwork.
But it never does. I just waste more hours beating my head against a social media rock. Problem number 2, I don't really have a solid business plan. Going off of the doing too many things at once thing, I kind of just jump around from idea to idea instead of making a game plan and sticking to it. Again, I need to really see what's working and put my full effort into those things. Things like YouTube. Yes, it's a source of income from sponsors and AdSense, but it's also a marketing platform. It's where people find my art and begin to connect with it and hopefully want to bring it into their own lives. And speaking of which, if that's you, I have lots of prints, stickers, courses, and more available in my shop. You can use the code YouTube10 to save 10% on your order. Every order comes with a freebie or two, and every order is Annie Jane approved. Problem number 3, I'm lacking some faith here. Y'all know I talk very openly about my faith in Christ here on YouTube. My faith is the biggest element of my life. It is my life. And without Christ, I don't have a purpose. And I think I've been putting so much pressure on myself to support myself through my art business and thinking that I have to provide for myself. Believing that me turning my art full time and being a self-supporting individual would be the best way to glorify him. And in that mindset, that I need to be the hero here or something. I haven't really been trusting in or recognizing his provision. Because the reality is, even though my art business doesn't support me yet, my needs are always met. He's given me an incredibly generous parents who recognize the physical limitations that I have and let me live at home. Parents who continue to encourage and support me as I try to build my business. The reality is, my business may not work out, but he's been providing all along, even if it's not exactly the way I want it to be. And if I'm never able to move out on my own and have a livable income from my art, I need to trust that he's still going to provide, even if that provision doesn't look like what I have in mind. I think having more faith and refocusing my attention on his power, not mine, would really help relieve a lot of my stress over my business. Question number 3, what has been creatively fulfilling for me this year? And what has been creatively draining? So that's a tough one. I think exploration as a whole has been my biggest creative cup filler this year. Exploring different mediums and subjects, exploring more urban sketching and plein air painting. I'll talk a little bit more about this in the next question, but exploration was such a big part of healing my relationship with my creativity this year. Specifically, my very explorative 30 Days of Art challenge. I've also really enjoyed exploring more of the Meriki Meadow, no surprise there. I've done 3 new Meriki Meadow paintings this year, and each one has helped me connect with the story a little bit more. I recently painted a new meadow environment, Bee's Bed and Breakfast, and I literally cannot wait to show y'all the process for that one. Dare I say, I think it's my favorite one yet. So the most creatively draining thing for me. I don't think there's one specific big drainer. I mean, before I worked on my relationship with my creativity, most of it was draining. I don't think you can have the mindsets I had toward art and not feel drained almost every time you make something. So I guess my limiting beliefs would be the most creatively draining thing for me this year. Number 4, am I in a good place with my creativity? Do I like the art I'm making, and am I enjoying my practice as a whole? For me today, this is a big yes. At the beginning of the year, it wasn't. I was in such a terrible place with my creativity. I didn't enjoy the act of creating anymore because I'd mentally turned it into a job and a job alone. I'd enforced so many crippling limitations on my creativity, like,
I need to stick to a style, or I can't use this medium because then it doesn't look like my art.
I let a lot of really big fears like fear of imperfection and fear of failure be the loudest voices in my creative practice. And I also listened to way too much advice from way too many people that didn't apply to me. Because the reality is, no one's creative practice is supposed to look the same as another person's. We're all such wildly and wonderfully different people, and we have to learn our own creative process. So I recently finished my 6-part video series on healing my relationship with my creativity, and I gotta say, that's been such a turning point for me. It helped me face all of the negatives I'd built up in my practice and let go of outside influences and learn my own creative practice. To get to know my preferences of subjects and mediums, to explore my ideas, and to follow my own creative rhythms. Of course, I don't love every piece I make, and I've learned to be okay with that. But I do love the direction my art is going in, and I've relearned to love the whole practice. I've learned that the end result isn't the most important part, but that simply loving the act of creativity is where it's at. Number 5, what is one big thing I'd like to accomplish in the upcoming months? And what is one step I can take towards it today? Okay, so this is a big one for me, but it's one I'm getting more and more excited about. I don't think it's going to happen before the end of this year, so I'm kind of tentatively shooting for springtime of 2025. I want to put out an art book of my Merricky Monday sketches. I think I have like 7-ish pages left in my sketchbook, so once I finish that, I think I'll have around 75 sketches. I don't know, 75? 80? Somewhere in there, I don't know. But I want to make a mini art book of all of those pieces and maybe some little poems or short stories to go with them. One step I can take towards that now is researching different printing options. I think I've decided that I'll run the pre-orders in my shop versus something like Kickstarter. Kickstarter can be amazing in different aspects, but they also take a very, very large fee. I think I have enough of a community interested in bits and baubles that I could just make the pre-order sale on my own website. But printing is something I definitely need to be thinking about. What printers are most affordable, which ones offer proofs, what kind of paper do I want, because there's literally nothing worse than a book with crappy paper. Anywho, this is definitely a big goal of mine, but it's one I'm really excited about. And number 6, is there anything negative taking up space in my life? Why haven't I let go of it? What is one step I can take today toward letting go? An uncomfy question for sure, but definitely one we all need to be asking ourselves. But I think we need to break down the word negative into 2 categories though, external and internal. External being things we don't have control over or have limited control over, and internal being things we do have control over. For external things, this could mean your job, like maybe your boss is terrible and the work environment isn't great. An internal negative might be a habit of online shopping as a pastime. For me, most of the negatives in my life are self-inflicted internal things. I'm definitely very dependent on pretty constant stimulation, and I don't love that about myself. The reason I seek out and haven't let go of like these quick hit kinds of stimulation is that they're easy. It's dopamine on a free silver platter. Whereas stimulation like reading a book or sketching, those require more effort. Also, not being constantly stimulated leaves a lot of room for thinking and boredom, both of which can be very uncomfortable at times. It's just default for me to have something going on in the background. It's a very unconscious thing for me to just reach for my phone, and I think that's a very dangerous autopilot for my mind to be on. It's like I literally can't do anything without something else going on too, like watching a show while I scroll through Pinterest or listening to a podcast while I do laundry. So one step I could take today toward letting go of that bad habit is replacing it with a good one. I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to music while you do chores, but it shouldn't be because you physically cannot stand to not have that stimulation. A better habit I could replace that kind of background noise with is practicing gratefulness. Listing off as many blessings as I can in the time it takes me to fold a basket of laundry, or maybe reserving listening to podcasts only during certain tasks. Maybe all other tasks, I guess, are like thinking time, but I listen to a podcast while I do the dishes. When you have a bad habit, you can't really just quit cold turkey. Removing a bad habit leaves a space in your life, and it's either going to be filled with the same bad habit or a different one unless you make the conscious effort to replace it with something good. I don't think I really have any negative external things taking up space in my own life right now, but if you do, maybe ask yourself if it's something you can let go of, because there are some things we can't let go of. Maybe your job sucks, but you have to pay the rent. You can't exactly let go of that, but there are steps you can take to lessen the suckiness. Maybe try practicing gratefulness even in the hard job. Maybe your boss is terrible, but your coworker always brings you a cup of coffee on Mondays. Try to see the good little things, even in the big, uncomfy circumstances. Or maybe letting go of some external negative means setting boundaries. Setting boundaries with family members who aren't always the best influence on your kids. Letting go of that friend who constantly brings you down, or explaining to them how the things they say impact you. You have the right to advocate for yourself. Anywho, I hope this little exercise was helpful for you. I know for sure it was helpful for me. Getting my thoughts out makes it a little bit easier for me to actually find rest in a slower season, instead of constantly mulling over things in my brain and feeling frazzled all the time. So let's chat a little bit about this piece before we say our goodbyes. If you've watched either of these videos, you may recognize this scene. It's an idea I've been playing around with for like 3 years now. It's made an appearance in several sketchbooks, but I just never turned it into a full illustration. I guess I just kept waiting for something. I don't know. It wasn't until just recently that I found out what that something was. So as y'all know, I absolutely love mythology candles.
Absolutely obsessed, 11 out of 10, my favorite.
They're limp lung friendly and pet friendly, both of which are musts for me. This isn't sponsored by them, by the way. I'm just a really, really big fan. Anywho, so they sent me a couple of candles from their Light Academia collection, and when I sniffed love letters on the writing desk, I realized that's what I'd been waiting for. That candle was the kick in the proverbial pants I needed to actually turn this idea into an illustration. So I decided to use my dip pen for this one. I don't know, it just kind of seemed like the right vibe. I'd had so much fun exploring my dip pen in July, and I really wanted to keep going with that. I definitely have a lot of things to improve upon in my line art practice, but I'm learning so much and loving every little piece of that. I'm learning more about line weights, texture-y mark making, how to bring attention to some areas and let others recede in importance. Because I've been focusing on painting for so long, it's been a really big mental shift to switch to something that's so line-focused. It's also been a friendly reminder to take my time. You can't just erase or paint over the top with line art, so what you put down is what stays there. I had to be much more methodical and careful as I went along, especially on the straight lines like the books and the desk. Not gonna lie, I was kind of freaking out about the picture frames on the walls, especially the more like ornate, crazy, curvy ones, so I did a little page of frame sketches in preparation. Doing these little sketches has definitely helped me work on my pen control and my confidence. I also watched a lot of Cosmic Spectrum's videos here on YouTube, which was very helpful. That girl is insane with a dip pen. Like the speed and confidence she has in putting lines down is just blows my mind. Anywho, it was a lot of fun filling the desk with lots of little props. Like the jar of pine cones and acorns, the books, the little bird skull. I don't know why, but I've been obsessed with bird skulls lately. Ever since the little forager painting, I just love sketching them. I had a lot of fun with the inking process for this one, and I'm super excited to show you the watercolor painting process for it in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching me do the line art for this illustration and chatting with me about things we can reflect on for the year. If you'd like to answer the questions too, don't forget there's a link down in the description to download the journal pages.
They're free, by the way.
Huge thank you to the Cozy and Curious Creatives over on Patreon for helping to support my art journey. I'm so blessed to have you guys in my community. If you're looking for a cozy little autumn-themed sketchbook session, then head on over to watch this video next. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys!